Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are jumping right into something truly mind-bending, a deep dive into the mystical geography and the really profound myths behind India's most sacred temples. We are going to decode a mystery that has captivated spiritual seekers for literally centuries. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever looked at a map of India and wondered what on earth connects these 12 seemingly random dots? I mean, we're talking about locations scattered all the way from the freezing, snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas straight down to the crashing waves of the deep south and tucked away in incredibly dense, ancient forests. There's a hidden thread here, and it's pretty fascinating.
So, let's start unraveling this mystery of the 12 points.
Because honestly, what's totally baffling about these specific locations is the complete lack of any conventional logical explanation. 12 distinct spots, zero historical consensus. It's not like one ancient architect drew up a master blueprint, right? Or some ambitious king decided to commission a massive empire-wide project. They don't even belong to a single historical era. Yet they possess this infinite, undeniable spiritual energy. For hundreds and hundreds of years, people have just inherently felt that these aren't merely physical stone structures, but actual focal points of massive, unseen cosmic energy. So you have to ask, where did all that energy come from?
To figure that out, we've got to look at the universe's very first Jyotirlinga and its cosmic origins. We actually have to rewind all the way back to the very beginning, the ultimate cosmic ego clash. Basically, the biggest turf war in history. You've got Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver, going head-to-head, both claiming absolute superiority over the universe. But right as their argument reaches a boiling point, suddenly, boom. A terrifying, endless pillar of blinding fire just rips straight through the earth and shoots infinitely into the cosmos, daring them to find where it starts or where it ends.
And that blinding pillar of fire, that is the original Jyotirlinga. It literally represents Lord Shiva himself as both the absolute beginning and the absolute end of all existence. Now, Vishnu actually bowed down in true humility when he couldn't find the bottom of it. But Brahma? Brahma flat out lied. He used a Ketaki flower as a fake witness to claim he'd somehow found the very top. Because of that massive lie, Brahma actually lost his right to be worshipped, while Shiva permanently anchored his infinite light across the earth.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how that raw cosmic energy actually stepped into our physical world. Take the moon god Chandra. When he was cursed to lose his radiant glow, he was absolutely desperate. The guy prayed at Prabhas for thousands of years with absolutely no food or water. When Shiva finally appeared, he didn't just snap his fingers and erase the curse entirely. Instead, he granted this beautifully balanced 15-day cycle of waxing and waning. And because of that, the very first Jyotirlinga, Somnath, was established in Gujarat, permanently tying the moon's monthly cycle to that exact piece of sacred earth.
Which brings us to a really powerful, much more human theme: sin, repentance, and forgiveness. Because while those cosmic battles are epic, some of the most incredibly remote shrines out there were actually born from crushing human guilt. Think about the Pandavas right after the devastating Mahabharata war. They were just completely consumed by the sin of killing their own kin, and they were desperately hunting for Shiva to get some kind of redemption. But Shiva knew they had to really, truly earn it, so he hid out in the freezing Himalayas disguised as a bull. It was only when the mighty Bhima physically caught the sinking bull that Shiva recognized their true repentance. That exact spot became Kedarnath, a shrine so wildly remote that it's buried under snow for 6 months out of the year.
We see that exact same thread of redemption over at Trimbakeshwar. The highly respected sage Gautam was falsely accused of a horrific sin by some extremely jealous rivals. He underwent intense penance, and through that sheer determination, Shiva literally brought the arrogant river Ganga down to earth, tangling her up in his hair before finally letting her flow out as the mighty Godavari River. Today, the linga there is completely unique. It's got 3 distinct faces representing Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It serves as this permanent, physical reminder that truth always wins out if you just quietly persevere.
So that's guilt. But what about arrogance? Let's look at ego versus true power.
This whole dynamic is absolutely fascinating because it perfectly contrasts the blinding arrogance of mighty beings with the subtle, immovable will of the divine. Just look at the terrifying demon king Ravana. This guy was so hungry for ultimate power that he literally sacrificed 9 of his own heads to Shiva. Shiva actually grants him a massively powerful linga, but with one massive catch. Do not, under any circumstances, set it on the ground. Naturally, the gods are terrified of Ravana becoming invincible, so Lord Ganesh swoops in, disguises himself as a simple cowherd, and totally tricks Ravana into handing it over. Ganesh immediately drops it on the earth, and despite all of his earth-shattering strength, Ravana couldn't budge it an inch. The Vaidyanath Linga was stuck there forever.
And this brilliantly illustrates something absolutely crucial about how true divine power manifests. Out of the entire universe, there is exactly one, just one, south-facing Jyotirlinga. That is Mahakaleshwar, in Ujjain. Now, the south is traditionally the direction of death. The story goes that when an arrogant asura attacked a deeply devoted Brahmin, Shiva just burst straight out of the Brahmin's simple mud linga and obliterated the demon on the spot. It is the ultimate unmatched flex of power over death itself.
But, it's not all about power and destruction. Let's shift gears and look at the pinnacle of selfless love. Once you strip away the grand displays of power, you realize some of these locations are rooted in incredibly raw, heartbreaking devotion. I love this quote from Lord Ganesh. "The entire universe is contained within my parents." When he was challenged to race around the universe, he just calmly walked in a circle around Shiva and Parvati. His brother, Kartikeya, who had actually flown across the entire cosmos, felt totally cheated and stormed off to Crouch Mountain in anger. The Mallikarjun Jyotirlinga was literally born right there from the pure, sorrowful tears of maternal love shed by Parvati over her estranged son. It is literally a sanctuary built out of a mother's grief.
We see that same pure, unstoppable devotion with Lord Ram too. Ram needed to wash away the sin of killing Ravana, right? Well, while they were waiting for a fancy stone linga to be brought all the way from Kashi, his wife Sita just knelt down on the beach, gathered up some sand, and built one with her own hands. Ram prayed to that pile of sand, and his devotion was so absolute that he was instantly absolved. And when the stone one finally showed up, even the incredibly powerful Hanuman couldn't uproot Sita's simple sand creation. That little pile of sand became Rameshwaram, the southernmost Jyotirlinga.
But man, if you want a truly moving story, it all comes down to one devastatingly simple plea. Lord, I want nothing. Imagine this. A woman named Gushma has her only son brutally murdered by her own jealous sister. But instead of seeking revenge, she just keeps up her daily worship, making and dissolving clay lingas through her tears. When Shiva finally appears to strike down the murderer, the devastated Gushma asks for absolutely nothing but good sense for everyone. Shiva was so deeply moved by that unwavering, pure devotion that he brought her boy back to life. And he stayed right there forever as the Krishneshwar Jyotirlinga.
So what is the ultimate thread connecting all of India through these sacred sites?
So the crucial point is this. When you step back from all the cosmic battles, the epic Himalayan chases, and the intense heartbreak, a pretty unbelievable pattern jumps out. If you break these sites down by their core emotion, it doesn't matter that the languages, the cultures, or the regions are completely different. There's a single, invisible spiritual thread tying it all together. It connects a Gujarati seeking peace to Rameshwaram down south and a Tamilian seeking solace to Dwarka in the west. The geography is incredibly vast, but the emotional journey, it's exactly the same.
Which reveals a really beautiful universal truth. Shiva appears wherever the pain is the deepest and the devotion is the truest. These 12 different stories, the moon god's physical decay, the crushing guilt of the Pandavars, a mother's devastating grief, they aren't just random myths scattered across a map. They're a single, unifying broadcast to the entire subcontinent. They're basically telling us that the divine responds directly to the sheer intensity of the human heart, regardless of where you happen to be standing.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy, provocative question to think about. Is it the thousands of physical kilometers we travel to reach these sacred spots? Or is it the absolute depth of our own devotion that truly connects us to the divine? These 12 Jyotirlingas kind of suggest that while the road trip across the map is amazing, the real mystery and the real destination has always been inside you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep seeking and keep learning.